welcome back to another 10-year anniversary video, and today we're gonna talk about a very boring story, which is Star Wars Pilot, or just the Pilot videos in general. I actually started making them 10 years ago. Sorry, no, David made them. David made all of them. That's the secret.
Why Pilot?
Why Pilot? Well, that's why I was gonna show you this. Me and Amelia were younger kids. We would draw a lot of comic books. There would be different styles and different genres. One thing that we could do in common were the stick figure style comic books, because I could sort of mimic Emilio's style and then we can work on them together. He could draw a panel, I could draw another panel. One thing at that age, which is fun to do, is to look at the big franchise blockbuster movies that you like and that inspire you growing up, and then you try to look at the scenes and recreate them, but in the comic book form. And in this case we would do that with stick figure style comic books. And what we did was Star Wars, just like the whole thing, you know, like from beginning to end. So it was like a fun exercise to just analyze the scenes and see how much you remembered, and sometimes you go back and actually watch some stuff, and it was like a fun thing to do, an exercise in storytelling and structure. And the same thing of Lord of the Rings, which I got right here. So when we go for the action scenes, we'll go more detailed, because that's what we thought was more fun. Just like, let's go over every moment. So it kind of became a storyboard when it came to the action scenes, but whenever it was a dialogue scene, we'll just, oh, let's just have them say that in one panel, then move on, because, you know, the action was where our focus, we would focus on the action more so than the dialogue. But that's how it was, you know, you're that at that age, in the impressionable age where this stuff inspires you. Why Pilot? In elementary school, you'd have the after school thing where you can go and play sports, play video games. There was a room where you could make music, and in that area they had computers, PCs, but they had a program called Pilot Stick Figure Animator. So I was introduced to it due to some friends who were testing it out, and thought it was fun, and it was easy to learn, and easy style to learn, because it wasn't the traditional way where you would have to draw every single frame, or I guess draw all the backgrounds. But with Pilot, you just you have your character with articulation points, and then you move almost as stop motion, but in the program. So I downloaded the program on my own, and then I looked at some of the Lord of the Rings fight scenes, and then I tried to recreate them, but in the Pilot form, making an adaptation of our comics, but in actual moving pictures the best way we could, because you could actually try to make the characters look as close as it did in our comic books, which I think worked out pretty well in hindsight, actually. So the first things I did were some fight scenes from Lord of the Rings, the hand-on-hand battle with Uruk-hai and the orcs. Very basic, crude animation style. Aragorn, which is the man with a sword. Gimli, man with axe. Legolas, man with bow. That's how it was. And then after that I made one based on Batman. I took a lot of inspiration from the Tim Burton Batman movies up until Batman Forever, actually. Also kind of skipping the dialogue, skipping all of that stuff. Just Batman action fight scenes, stick figure style, that's what it was. So if you want to see the entire third act of the Batman movie with Joker, you got it, but in Pilot form. And then I got to the point where I couldn't make more frames on the animation, because I got to the point where, no, your animation is too long. So I had to stop, and that was difficult because I made one more frame and then the entire project file would get glitchy and corrupted, and I couldn't open it. So I had to shelve that project because I couldn't open the file anymore, and hopefully I could open it for this video to show you some footage. Just moved on to another project, and that was one based on the Alien movies, which was an amalgamation of most of the elements from the 4 movies put together into one. It's actually not on YouTube, I think. I don't know why I didn't upload it, but I think that was the first I could consider it good out of the ones I made, because I was actually figuring out how to make the backgrounds so it would be more colorful. Before that, it was just white background, so it wasn't the nicest thing to look at. It was actually very reminiscent of the comics we have right here. In the school, I would always, between lessons, and you have your books, you draw stuff. I would draw out the concepts for the Pilot videos or the animations. I actually drew out almost every Batman character, but the Pivot version, the stick figure version. Like, okay, I have them ready. Let's see if I can adapt them later. But as soon as that project was shelved, I just moved on to the Alien one, and let's see if I can make this work. Just taking elements from Alien Resurrection mostly, and the first Alien movie. I think I had the dog alien from Alien 3. From 2, I guess, it's action pieces. But yeah, so how did Star Wars begin? From a similar idea, I would go on YouTube and see if people had made anything similar with Star Wars. One thing that would be really fun would be to animate the lightsaber fights and a lot of the action scenes again. That's the main attraction to doing so, being able to look at those scenes from the movies and then try to remake them in Pivot. Kind of like analyze the scenes and see how did they work and how can I make this but in 2D. What are the important parts in every movie? What are the parts that everyone remembers? Just with Star Wars, it was all in one long animation. I didn't make separate ones for the different episodes. It was all this one long thing, which is my idea was for you to watch the whole thing from beginning to end and not watch them individually. I was not done with them, which is why I started uploading them separately, because I guess people would search for it that way. So that's what happened there. I just made them in the release order, starting with episode 4, 5, 6, and then to episode 1 and 2 and 3. Interesting to look back on now, because I remember exactly 10 years ago to this day, when we're filming this, I was animating the final fight scene in Return of the Jedi. I was making them in early 2010. I didn't upload any until September because I couldn't figure out how to record the screen. So therefore I had to put the camera up and film it from the TV screen, which doesn't look the best. I couldn't get fraps working either. I think the first time I ever got fraps really working okay with Pivot was last year for the Spider-Man video. It took 9 years, and then I kind of got it working. It still wasn't the best. But then I kind of liked the idea of seeing part of the program in the background. I kind of liked it because it looks like you're watching it from just the program itself, and I do like that because you do see that it's all part of the same ongoing animation reel, that I'm not making them separate, so you could see that it's actually the same one. Oh look, I added a side entrance there. Another thing that I would do, I just add moments just because, hey, it's more fun, let's add an element from the Clone Wars there, or that fight scene at the end of Return of the Jedi where I added Luke fighting the Royal Guards just for the sake of it. And actually it's adaptation. It's supposed to be exactly the same way like in the movies. For the sake of adding more exposition visually. For example, seeing Grievous actually capture the Chancellor in between episode 2 and 3. Although I do admit that there are a lot of moments missing. The whole speeder bit at the beginning of episode 2, I just skipped that. Partially inspired because of the Lego game didn't have that. So I was like, oh well, if the Lego game didn't have that, then maybe I don't have to have it either. And then you just move on, you know. So in September 2010, that's when I started uploading them. I was actually really stunned by the fact that people liked them, and even considering that it was filmed from the computer screen with the camera, you can hear me with coughing in the background in the beginning, and like the clicking noises, and me trying to like play the music from YouTube in the background. And now YouTube has taken away the music anyway because of copyright reasons, so maybe it's good you don't hear that anymore. Therefore I resorted to just looking up like piano versions of the Star Wars themes and just putting them in the background, so you'd have some music, so it's not just complete silence. I was really happy that people liked them and wanted to see more, and sometimes even requested stuff, and I couldn't always fulfill the requests because it would be something maybe I didn't have all the passion to dedicate all my time to make, or maybe it would be like a movie where I just didn't figure out how to make that in Pivot form, even though I considered it. I think I did consider Matrix because of all the fight scenes, and I think I did a test of that at some point. Unfortunately, I don't have any of that left, any of that footage. So many different options. Out of all the options, I choose Leviathan, a B horror movie from the late 80s. Very inspired by like movies like The Abyss and even Alien. So I adapted that movie into Pivot very loosely. I didn't even go back and rewatched it. Let's just see if I can remember everything. I think I got a lot of things wrong. If you would actually look back on that movie and look on the Pivot video, I get a lot of things wrong. The actual video, I think it's fun though, because it's a very simple horror tale, just told visually, and it takes place underwater, and it's an Alien ripoff. But yeah. So, Lord of the Rings, this was a big project, just getting this done. Oh, is it second one? I remember adding characters from the video games, like Battle for Middle-earth 2, and I try to like incorporate elements from books at some points. This, I think, is the closest we can get to what we drew right here. I think it's the closest looking one out of these. But these are big projects because you realize you get to part 3, Return of the King, and then you have those giant battle scenes, and this is your entire scope of frame, right? So how do you make a giant battle take place in this little screen? That was a thing that I'd have to figure out, and I didn't know how I was gonna do it yet. I was just winging it, you know. So you could do panels like these, more closed environments, kind of like medium shots, but then you can do this, right? This is kind of like your IMAX, but in comic book form. So how can I do this with a little screen? Well, I think what we basically figured out with the battle scenes was just to show what's essential. You can cut away and go back, and then you can show more orcs, and then you can cut away with the human characters too. You'd have to make those close frames and then just focus on the individual battles, and that's what you would have to do. This is one of those that Emilio helped me with, because Emilio has a lot of ideas for action scenes and wars and battles, so Emilio actually animated Helm's Deep with me. Not that much inspired from what we drew, but just kind of like looking back at the movie, and Emilio remembers that battle really well because it's his favorite battle sequence in Lord of the Rings. Of course, there are moments where characters maybe attack a little more slow, maybe we rushed it in the moment, you can't really go back and redo much. Once a frame is done, you would have to go back and delete the frame, and you'd have to delete them frame by frame. So if you animate an entire sequence and then, oh, that looked weird or something, or that was rushed, it would take you like 5 minutes to even get rid of the footage and then replace it with something new. That's why there are moments where like, oh, that wasn't the best, but then I would try to make up for it later and make the next fight scene better. So sometimes one has to apologize some of the more poor fight moments. Maybe, I don't know, sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're like, let's just get to the next scene. I want to get to the next battle, I want to get to that part more than this part. So, you know, you have to like, oh, okay, I gotta go do this chronologically. That's how it works, you know, so that's where you skip through that. Walking animation. I'm not good at it. Sometimes I've done a little bit of it with the horses and some characters at times, but in the James Bond ones, when he walks up the stairs, you see the legs moving a bit, but that's kind of it. And I know I got complaints for it. You know where it comes from? It's actually because when Emilio made his first pilots, he did the same, and then it kind of just stuck around. And then some people have called me out on it, but it's just how it is.
What was it like modeling all these different characters?
I thought it was fun because it was basically like drawing, but you draw with like one line at a time. And you couldn't really zoom in when you're doing that, so you have to really be careful and get those little details in. What is the essential thing that defines the character that you could represent via the stick figure style? You make a character like Qui-Gon, okay, you try to draw out a bit of the goatee and you make a bit of long hair. Then I made the James Bond ones, Casino and Quantum, and they're basically an updated version of James' Stick, which were some shorts Emilio did, actually, based on James Bond, but his own take. Emilio's own take on James Bond action sequences, and that was James' Stick. And then I made the updated version, and then I just took inspiration from some of the movies. And I think with Casino, I rushed the stair fights a bit. I'm not the most proud of that one, looking back at it, but then I'm really happy with how the final action scene turned out in the Venice with the sinking house. I like how that turned out. Sometimes I really go in and make sure, okay, let's get this part done right. The fight scenes I'm most happy with, it's that one, the sinking Venice house. It's the ending fight in Quantum with James versus Dominic Green. I think that's probably the best animated fight, like fisticuffs fight I've done. And then also the one with Aragorn versus Lurtz in the first Lord of the Rings, and the final fight with the Predalien and the Predator in Alien vs Predator Requiem. I think those are the best fight scenes I've been able to do. The ones that I can look back on and be happy about. Oh yeah, Alien vs Predator. Not the most liked movies, I hear. And you have both Predator and Alien in it, so you can adapt those scenes, and those scenes are the scenes that are fun to adapt in Pilot because they're so easy to follow, you know. With Requiem, again, it was one of those movies that I don't remember too well, to be honest. The entire movie is very dark and murky, so you can't really see too well, which is a big problem with that movie. I just went by my own memory of what I remember happened in that movie, and then I just went off the rails and started adding alien characters from the video game version of Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Therefore, you get a lot of added action scenes that are not in the actual movie, which is kind of like, again, see it as an adaptation, or see it as a tribute to those movies. Admittedly, sometimes we did download some models, the planet model and that thing that you see here in the first version of the Starship Troopers, which is one that Emilio made. I uploaded it on the channel because it was part of the pilot series. The ones that I uploaded that Emilio made were Starship Troopers, Emmett Begins, and the Kill Bill inspired fight scene. So those are the ones that Emilio made. The final thing, Star Wars related, that I did or have done is the Force Awakens trailer in Pilot. There was a lot of Star Wars pilot projects that I actually planned that never came into fruition. I was working on making Force Unleashed. I actually drew out the characters, and again, in some of the notebooks, I don't have them anymore, but I drew out the designs for them and what sequences I wanted to keep, and there were so many sequences that you wanted to keep, and it would basically be a compilation of lightsaber fights. I was also thinking of doing one based on the Darth Maul fan film, one where he fights like two other Sabrak guys with lightsabers, and I just like that fight scene. Didn't get to that point, and then when they were starting to make the new Disney Star Wars movies, I was of course thinking about, oh, I have to make them now, right? Oh no, and then Rogue One comes out, do I have to make that one too? And I don't know, then it's just personal opinions aside, I think it's just to that point where Pilot didn't work on my Mac computer. I was not being able to use the other computer so much anymore, and that led to just a slowdown, and then, you know, not so much interest in it anymore really. And I was like, you know, we've done it, and then we've done our fan films, and to make them, it's to dedicate a lot of time into them, to make them be nice to watch and not feel rushed, and not feel like, okay, you just made them just to make them and not make them because you enjoyed making them. The one that I was really devoted to finishing up was Return of the King. I got to almost the end of the Minas Tirith fight, and just the movement kills were left to design, and then maybe that's the one I'll one day finish up. Maybe that's the one I'll one day finish up. I mainly recorded some behind the scenes of me working on that. It was the first time we ever uploaded something like that on the channel, just seeing kind of like how it's being made, because I usually would keep a lot of that secret and not reveal until I just uploaded it. Oh wow, you know, the entire thing is out, I can see the whole thing, and not tease too much because you don't want to disappoint, right? I actually teased the Batman Begins pilot in one video, and it never got finished. Didn't get far with it. There's a Godzilla one. There's an unseen Godzilla pilot that I got to the same issue that... Oh no, actually no, I got into an issue where invalid floating point error. If anyone out there has animated on Pilot and knows about it, let me know. That's what happened. This is something to do with one of the floating points on one of the articulation things didn't work anymore. I think it was supposed to be Gigan's visor. I got to the Gigan fight, and then, yeah, I think I messed something up, and then if I can open that project file up, I'll show it in this video. One fight scene after the other, kind of like Destroy All Monsters or Godzilla Final Wars, kind of one of those. That's what it is. I think at one point we were even contemplating, should we have, are we gonna dub in voices when the characters are talking? Are we gonna do that, or are we gonna like animate in the text or something, like silent films? Eventually, no. That's why you don't want to do too much talk scenes, because then it's just them doing this, and that's not so much fun to watch. It's just, yeah, you get it, move on, I guess. What I'll do for this video, for those sticking around, and okay, reveal, David made them all.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Ichuta, how rude. Thank you for liking them. Most of them were done 10 years ago, and coming around 10 years ago, 8, 7, you know, some of them.
When's the next one coming out?
When's the next one coming out? I don't know. There's so much other stuff we're working on, and I can't say when I can give release dates. I was trying to do that before, but I can't do it right now with the pilot ones because of the different circumstances. I don't have access to the program like I did before, and that's the main thing. You know, you'd have free time, and then during that free time you would go in and animate things, and There are even so many more just extra ones that I didn't even cover. That just made just because of fun. Some that were never done, some that were never uploaded, some that were lost on the way. There's a Clone Wars. There's a Clone Wars pivot one, which if I find, I'll show in this video too. I've also seen a lot of people be inspired by the ones, especially the Star Wars ones I made, and so I've gone to YouTube and I've seen other videos that have followed. I mean, I could go in and I could see that they're very much inspired by the ones I made, and that makes me happy because it shows that it has spoken volumes to someone else out there, inspire them to make their own. Well, sometimes, I mean, I know we copied the movies, and I guess art imitates art. Eventually, I comment on some of the ones I see and say, hey, good job and everything. Yeah, that's the story of the pivot videos. I hope it wasn't too much of a boring story. I think there's a lot more that you can always cover, and if there are questions, you can ask them, and we'll be glad to answer regarding this. Now I'll show you all of what's been made of the Return of the King one, for those who want to see. The power of the ring travels with you now. Oh, but thank you, and see you for the next anniversary video. David, anything to add?
I like the stick figures.
He likes stick figures.